Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Threat Talk. I'm your host, Bob Hansman, and despite all the media attention around pen testing and red teaming and blue teaming, etc., the number of common misconceptions about these practices is surprising. I've been really surprised about how often people are confusing things like pen testing with red teaming. And so today we're going to try and clarify what these different services are, what they are not, and share some tips about how to get the most out of them using internal or external resources. Now, to help us do this, we've asked Amit Singh, who's the technical director at 3Columns. He's been on the episodes before, and we've asked him to come back and help us explain this to you. Thanks for joining us again, Amit.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for inviting me again. Thank you.
Now, we talked a little bit about pen testing on a previous episode, but I really want to really get into what it is and what it isn't. And it's been around for a long time. I think people remember the original Hackers movie and stuff, and they tend to think of pen testing as just, oh, you hire somebody, they try to break into your company, and they just say, hey, here's how we did it. But Hollywood was never reality. And can you bring us up to what is the current state of pen testing and how does it remain different than red teaming, blue teaming, and so forth?
Right. Yeah, look, pen testing, that's a very interesting topic, Bob. Pen testing has been traditionally and it still is a very scoped exercise. Customers are looking at internal network infrastructure or, you know, website or web application or mobile application or external infrastructure. So if customers are planning to do a pen testing, the way it starts is you list down all your IP addresses or the web application that require pen testing, and that becomes a scope. And as a pen tester, because of all the legal, all the compliance, all the insurance policies, and part of the proposal document, we cannot go above and beyond that scope. And sometimes, the insurance companies don't let us do anything and above and beyond. So that's why the pen testing will always remain a scoped exercise. Whereas red teaming is a very interesting. It depends on what customer would like to get as an outcome. Are they looking to test the effectiveness of security controls they have put in place? Is the theme solution picking up all the alerts? Is the firewall blocking all the threats? Is the antivirus or the anti-malware solution they have deployed is configured correctly and blocking all the attempts? Is the web application firewall configured correctly? So red teaming is basically when we conduct red teaming, what we do as part of the engagement is we walk through scenarios that customers would like to test. We have customers who have, simulated a scenario that one of my employees have lost a laptop. Now, can you get into the laptop? Is there any way? So red teaming is very different compared to pen testing, and especially when you look at the outcome, the report is completely different outcome.
Now, when they do the pen testing, when customers come to you, is it because of something they've seen in the news or something that's happened in their industry and they just want to know how well they are currently protected against that scenario? Do they come to you with very specific scenarios, or do they just say, hey, it's time for our annual pen testing? Can you tell me if you have, option A, B, and C? Do they ask you to provide scopes, or do they come to you with a very clear, this is what I need you to do?
So there are two or three different type of customers. One, we got to tick the box. It's an annual pen testing. Could you please get it done? And that's it. They already know the scope. They've done it many, many times. It's just for them. It's just a tick in the box. The second type of customers who've never done a pen testing and they don't know how to scope it. So they come to us for guidance because the kind of services we provide a wide range of pen testing. And we go above and beyond some of the traditional pen testing, and we look into SaaS security. Customers use Office 365 for email. You cannot do pen testing against Office 365. It's just not possible. So we have a wide range of services that we offer to our customers. So the third type of customers who've never done a pen testing, and they have been requested by either an insurance company or a third party provider or one of their big customers to go and get the pen testing done. So for them, pen testing is just a tick in the box exercise. And again, it'll be a very tight scope, one or the two application, one or two IP addresses. That's what happens.
So on red teaming, to make that transition, I mean, and then there's the purple teaming, and they seem to add new colors to this mix all the time. I was just looking at a chart here where they had the orange teaming and the green teaming, but the one thing I noticed is that half of the colors seem to be about challenging or testing and verifying how secure your own applications are, versus red teaming and blue teaming, which is about how secure your network and organization is. Is that pretty accurate? Because I believe you do both.
Yes, that's correct. Because the way we describe it to our customers, your applications have become the perimeter. It's not the firewalls anymore, and your applications are the face of the business. For look at any insurance company, the insurance companies or the big banks. Just imagine if the banking website is not available for 24 hours, what would happen? It's a big impact on their business. So to make these website and the application secure, the customers have to move to what they call it the shift left. Look into the source code where the problem is. Because when we, as a pen testers, when we do pen testing, all we are picking up is the vulnerabilities that were part of the source code. So the problem is when the developers are developing the application, because they don't have that security mindset. They know how to develop the application. They just cut, copy, paste sometimes they cut, copy, paste the source code and just move into the next application and off we go. It's the security team. And why this whole green team and the yellow team, which is part of where the source code development happens, why security needs to be part of that. So, so traditionally, what has happened, developers will develop the code, and try to push into the dev environment. And before it goes into production, the security team will conduct a pen testing. And when security team will conduct a pen testing, there will be gaps. And you cannot push an update onto the application if they're critical, vulnerabilities. What happens? That development goes back into the backlog. Now the developers have to work on it again. If you have right tools as part of the development, the source code scanning happening right at the development cycle of it, the developers can develop the code, quickly scan it, and just clean it right there, and then push it. So by the time it gets to the production stage, the code is very clean. The pen testers are not going to pick up any critical, any high level vulnerabilities. It's going to be very rare scenario that would happen. So that's why it's very important for organizations to think instead of just investing in pen testing, start looking at source code scanning as part of the development cycle as well.
And so, and this is more and more important as more and more companies, they don't buy all their software. They develop a lot internally. Most organizations, it's not just even websites, even they're writing all sorts of different kinds of code. More and more companies are writing apps for their customers if they're in some sort of a commercial industry. Um, I've been watching markets for graduates in software development are being sought because there's a shortage. More and more companies are doing internal development. But you and I talked about a topic a couple months ago where Heartbleed came up. That's the kind of problem that sometimes it's not their own coders who wrote bad code, but they're incorporating a library that creates a problem, right?
And that's correct. And that goes back to the same point. A pen tester will not be able to identify a library that has been copied from somewhere, which has a malicious content. And I think unfortunately this happened to one of the vendors, one of the data breaches that happened a couple of years ago. SolarWinds, everybody's familiar. Hackers managed to push their code into as part of the development cycle. So that's why I think the government has become a lot more strict. Australian government is looking at about that, and I think the American government has already made, they call it a SBOM, which is the software bill of material, which means the companies need to know where these libraries are coming from. And even if they are malicious, and if you're not doing code scanning at the time of development, you will not be able to identify, and hence goes back to the same point that source code scanning is becoming far more important for the companies who are looking at, or developing these application in-house to make sure the security is part of the design, from ground up.
Well, let's go back and shift to the red teaming and blue teaming because now we're talking
Sure.
about how do I protect my organization from devices that might have firmware or applications that I'm using, which could be cloud application or on-prem applications, where they've also been written by people that we aren't sure if they've been doing their code pen testing, and maybe there's a problem there. So when it comes to red teaming, you'd mentioned that pen testing is a very scoped exercise, but red teaming is more like totally open, right?
It is open, we call it a, before we have a term that we use as part in the proposal, give us a get out of the jail card, day one. In a red teaming, I can talk about a couple of examples in the last 6 months, um, we have done, pretty much a red teaming engagement every week, and there is no scope to it, depending on what the outcome the customers are looking at. Um, as part of the engagement, we could just drop a phishing email at 2 o'clock at night and see if someone just click on the link. And what we want to test is at 2 o'clock at night, if someone click on that phishing link, who's actually picking up the alert and how they're responding, so that we can, assess if they have the right tools in place and if they have the right processes in place to block that malicious activity. Whereas that wouldn't happen in a pen testing, because pen testing is usually, 9 to 5 type of activity. So that's why, and it allows the customers to look at, are my systems set up correctly? And we do red teaming as part of our managed SOC and SIEM services. We do a complimentary red teaming for our customers because we have those Chinese walls, between our teams. So SOC team has no idea, who our red teamers are, but why we conduct, so that we can make sure we are being more proactive to finding out what fine tuning of the SIEM solution and other tools is required. And I think that's what customers should be looking at, and that should be the purpose of red teaming, finding the gaps in the technology, configuration, and the processes.
Now, again, I want to remind the audience the reason why we invited Amit here in particular is that he's one of the founders of Three Column, and they do a wide range of things. He's mentioned this a few times, but that's actually very important because it's why we have him here. The kinds of services that people are using and outsourcing has increased dramatically. We've talked in the past about a survey that was done by SANS. It's called the SOC Survey. They do it every year. And we're coming up on, well, it's almost been a year since the 2022 SOC survey. So they're probably going to have a new one here shortly. But, and if anybody's interested in that, you can get that on the Infoblox website. Just go to resources and look for white papers from SANS, and look for the latest SOC survey. But they have a section in there where they talk about outsourcing, that these kinds of not just pen testing, but red teaming, purple teaming, and a lot of other functions that are native and can just considered that's a SOC. If you don't do these things, you aren't a SOC. But the three most commonly outsourced things are pen testing, red teaming, and purple teaming. So it looks like a lot of people are doing the outsourcing of pen testing, red teaming, and purple teaming. But can you clarify, why are they doing it outsourcing rather than just doing it in-house?
Um, Bob, it's the red teaming in particular requires a very unique skill set. It's not a traditional pen testing, It's not a pen tester's job. So red teamers is completely different skill set. Why companies are outsourcing, especially exercises like red teaming, because they know that they don't have that capability, they don't have the tool. And companies like us, because we've done it, so many times, we've developed so many different use cases, and we have all the tool set to be able to deliver the outcome for the customer. So that's why companies are looking at, and services like digital forensics, part of the SOC requirement, incident response support, Do you need an incident responder, in-house? If you're a, mid-sized business, probably not. It's a very unique skill set. That's what we have done. We have put these services as part of our SOC offering: incident response, digital forensic. These are all included, and that's why companies are looking at outsourcing, these services to SOC companies like us.
Well, and also since you mentioned the 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 pen testing is a very scoped thing. They might be able to find tools, but definitely with red teaming, they're trying to involve somebody who's got expertise, who's been thinking of things from a different angle. I mean, you're coming in not just with, oh, we're going to do things you could do yourself. We're coming in with templates and tools that you may not even be aware of, and really pushing their systems to the limit, right?
Yes, and we have created scenarios where we walk into a customer's, instead of going to the try to walk into the head office. There's a retail company. We try to target them, and we successfully managed to do that. Instead of targeting the head office, which anybody would try, or if a pen tester, they would invite the pen tester to go into the head office. We actually targeted them from the retail store. We walk into the retail store, and we pretended to be an IT company, and we're here to fix your systems. And that's how we launched the attack. And I was part of the red teaming. That highlighted the gaps, at that where the gap, sits. And, nobody should be allowed to touch the IT system, even at a retail store level. So yeah, so things like
Now,
that. We bring, sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, so these kind of scenarios we bring in where, traditional pen testing doesn't, and we kind of force customers to think out of the box.
So, how would somebody engage with a pen tester and know that they're actually going to get value for their money? Because I've talked to people that honestly, they reach out to me on the show. They're trying to get into it. They've started their own little business, but they don't have a whole lot of experience. Now, that might not be, needed for a lot of companies that are small and they just need something. But when somebody wants to have a full-fledged red team exercise, they're looking for people with experience. How do they make sure that they've got a partner that can do the job?
Yep, sure. I think the first thing as a company, what they need to do, they need to clearly define the goal, what outcome they're looking for from a red teaming. Are they looking to identify gap in a process? Are they looking at identifying gap in the technology stack, or even the skill set that they have? Is SOC being reactive or not? So first thing is setting up the goal. What outcome you would like to achieve. The second thing is the certification. The company that you're engaging in red teaming, do they have the right skill set? Do they have certified people? Do they have a lot of experience? Sometimes certification alone doesn't mean anything. Does the red teamer have enough experience? Because the red teamers I have, none of our red teamers have less than 7 years of hands-on experience. But you can find a red team certified who has less than 6 months of experience. The outcome is going to be completely different. Uh, then the most important thing is how much experience they actually have. How many red teamings they have conducted. We have seen in the market the customers have gone and sold, pen testing as a red teaming engagement. Well, that's not the outcome that you're going to get. It's not going to provide the outcome. So yeah, so defining the outcome that you're looking for, qualification, certification, and hands-on experience, how many years they've done it. One other thing that I would highlight is, your red teamers, is it just one person or a team of red teamers? Because that's very important as well. Because red teamers have their own skill set. Some are really good at, dropping a phishing email or stealing credentials, and some are very highly qualified to penetrate a system and, escalate privileges from there. So make sure you have a good team who can actually deliver the outcome that you're looking for.
Now, we talked earlier that when you get to very large organizations, particularly government agencies, they actually do have people on staff who do these kinds of things. Most organizations fully outsource it simply because they just don't have the skill sets and the people, particularly for something like this, that they don't do it every day. They need those skills only periodically, and it's economically just better to outsource. But when you do work with a large organization where you're going to work alongside an in-house team, where you're, and I'm thinking of that SAN survey where it's half, half of them said that it's a both experience, that they don't outsource it, they don't do it in-house, they actually blend their in-house expertise with an outsourced team. When you do those larger exercises, how often does that happen, and how does that work? How do you work with an in-house team on a red team exercise?
Yeah, sure. So that's the typical scenario for, purple teaming. That's what, because red teaming is your offensive and the blue teaming is your defensive team. Purple teaming engagement working with the customer. Our offensive team will launch an attack, and defensive team, will guide the customer on how to respond to these type of incidents or identify what's missing in the technology stack to be able to detect this type of attack, in future. So yes, this scenario is very common for some of the very large organization, very mature organization. They conduct purple teaming, where we work with their SOC provider or internal SOC team or internal cybersecurity team to ensure that they have the right processes set up, they have the right technology in place, and the right configuration to be able to detect that.
Well, and I like the fact that you kind of have highlighted here, and I'm going to underscore it for the audience. Number one, some pen testing is to test the technology stack, but other pen testing is to test, or excuse me, red teaming is to test your technology stack, but others are to test your processes, because there's a lot of companies, they've got the tools, they just don't know how to use them. I get surprised all the time when I go to trade shows and I'll meet customers there, and they'll say, hey, hey, love your product, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, so, hey, why are you here at the show? What are you looking for? And they'll say, well, we're looking for something that can do this. I'm going, the thing you bought from us does that. Did you not know that feature was there? And so there's a lot of people, they don't even know what some of their own tools are capable of. So the tool was capable, but there was an education or a process gap that needs to get filled. And so a good red team exercise, at least periodically, should be testing both. Would you agree?
That's correct. Yep, the company should be looking at purple teaming just to make sure that they're getting the best out of the product. And I think that's where we add a lot more value into the customer environment, because we have that consulting arm as well, where we have the capability to help customers build that capability in-house as well.
Well, fantastic. Unfortunately, we are coming to the bottom of our time, but I want to thank Three Columns for lending us Amit today. So thanks for being here again, Amit.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you so much for inviting us again, and thanks to the audience.
We're really enjoying your contribution here. And thank you to all of our viewers and listeners for your time. Join us next time as we continue our efforts to help you stay on top of cybersecurity and ahead of cyber risks on Threat Talk.